broadcast on this August 20th, 2025. August 20th, 2025. And why are you up here so early? I think I know why you're up here. I think I know. You're not just saying hello. Okay, those are not kisses of love. Those are kisses of bribery. You're kissing up, literally. What do I have here is, what is this called? Bun cake? How you spell that? B-U-N-D-T, bun cake? And I would love to have this, but it's loaded with gluten, number one. And it's loaded with sugar. And we have sworn off as much sugar as we can possibly humanly stand, which is pretty much all sugar. Because I'm wearing my monitor, my blood glucose monitor. And right now my glucose is 105. So I cannot have this. But one of the guys just brought this through the studio door. Actually, two of them, Thomas and Jeb, are going to eat this. Jeb's our graphic guy. And Dolly would love to have this, but this is not good for you. It's not good for me. It's not good for you. So neither one of us can have this, all right? I'm just sorry. That's just the way it is. So anyway, I just thought I'd show you my great restraint. These guys, they bring pizza through the studio. They bring cakes through the studio. They tempt both of us, don't they, Dolly? All right, is this Jeb? Well, Jeb, you know, he is so skinny, he needs to wear a pair of skis, or when he's in the shower, he'll go down the hole. So he could actually get away with it. Jeb is so skinny, if he turned sideways and stuck out his tongue, he would look like a zipper. Are you liking those, Jeb? He said it's actually pretty funny. He's actually laughing in there. So don't. And Jeb's not 80 years old. How old are you, Jeb? 22. So he'll bulk up. But he'll bulk up. Get that boy some protein powder. Anyway, Jeb, you can eat all the cake you want. He says he's loving it. Thank you, Jeb. Thank you for bringing it through the studio. You know, Jeb is so skinny. You hearing this, Jeb? Jeb is so skinny, he only has one stripe in his pajama. Yeah, this is all go. Yeah, you know, you guys act like you've never heard these jokes before. These are clearly dad jokes. Any of you older folks know these are old. These are so old. These are old jokes. These are the ones you keep in your mind your whole life that you were told as a kid. They all think they're hilarious, but I guess that's why they're dad jokes. All right, well, there you go. Jeb's a good sport, but Jeb, enjoy it, my friend. You're at an age where your metabolism is running high, and you can do that. So enjoy that cake. Me, before we get going tonight, who do I got tonight? Colonel Rob Maness on 4,000 Marines on a boat headed toward Venezuela. We got to talk about that. Let's talk about, by the way, one of the guys that was traded. He was traded for the hostages of October 7th is coming into the United States to speak, I think, in Michigan. Are you kidding me? I have the article over at worldviewreport.com, your daily aggregated news site. I want to ask him about that. It's an article actually about my friend Daniel Greenfield. So we got Colonel Rob Maness to talk about several things. We've got Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen is going to join us. We're going to talk about the Republican Party, the Democrat Party. We're going to talk about corporations that have gone woke, like Target's CEO, I guess, resigned today. And then you've got the Minnesota Vikings doing the whole weird thing with the male cheerleaders. Why would corporations do this? Let's talk about that woke mentality in corporations. And like I said, we're going to cover the waterfront with Mark. Always can. By the way, he'll be one of our keynote speakers at our did you know we're having a national conference? People are registering now in brisk numbers. I guess they're out of summer mode and they're registering. So come and join what's going to be a great turnout. But Mark will be a speaker at that national conference. Friday night, October 3rd, Saturday, October 4th. Then I'm going to have on with me tonight Alex Newman to talk about Illinois, for instance. Illinois is now wanting to do home visits on kids. Oh, I warned about this in my book in 93. And we're going to talk about several other things that the educrats, the Democrats, the Marxists want to do with our children. Enough to make your blood boil. And climate change is still a thing. And I think he's about to go to one of the climate change conferences. We'll talk to Alex Newman about a variety of topics as well tonight. Now, before we get started, Jeb and Thomas are in there eating bundt cake that Dolly and I are going to avoid eating because it's not good for either one of us. But I am going to drink something that's wonderful for me. I drink it every day, oftentimes here on air, just to show you guys. This is not me just pushing a product. This is something I take every day, and it's because I believe in it. And it is, what do you guys want? What? You want a picture of what? You wish you had a picture of me eating cake. Why? Oh, put it on the screen. I'm not eating cake. I've been so disciplined. Aren't you shocked how disciplined I've been? Yeah, they're saying. Thanks for the encouragement, boys. This is a drink that came out of really the personal life experience of Tom Harper, who was diagnosed with cancer and given a very short time to live. Starts eating the phytoplankton he was raising for his shellfish. His daughter, who's in the picture there, is on video along with him telling about it. But she's saying, like, what are you doing? Why are you eating this? It's for shellfish. She's like, what do I got to lose? Turns out he goes in for biopsies, 11 of them. They all come back benign. Out of that, Global Plankton Alliance was born. Dolly gets half a scoop every day on her food, the pet product. Yeah, I'm talking about you. And I drink a full scoop. Sometimes I do 2 glasses a day. And Dr. Lana says if you have a serious health crisis, you could do quite a few of these a day, morning and night. But I drink it every day. It's the real deal. Gets right to the cellular level, feeds your mitochondria, and boosts your own immune system so your own immune system can fight off all the bad stuff out there. You know what I'm talking about. Each and every day. Went down the wrong way part of it. Maybe I need some cake. You didn't cough when you were eating your cake? Thank you. They're all really rubbing it in on their cake thing in there. You can't have your gatatana and cake and eat it too, right, Logan? Yep. All right. What else do I do? I also do Bella Grace every day. This is the powerful elixir at melissahousebg.com, loaded with 3 powerful ingredients. You guys know. You guys could probably do the spot yourself. What are the 3 ingredients, guys? Astaxanthin. Cat's claw. Really, guys? Collagen. Yeah. Oh. Mm-hmm. You guys aren't paying attention to my show, are you? Now, boys, you guys had cake in there. I just had gatatana and Bella Grace. Who do you think's going to be doing better in about an hour? Your sugar is going to be crashing, and my sugar is going to be nice and stable. There you go. You want to go play pickleball? Who plays pickleball in there? Thomas, you really do play pickleball? Twice a week. Huh. I wondered what you were doing over at the retirement center. He won't play with the real boys. He goes over to the retirement center. He likes to whoop up on the 80-year-old women playing pickleball. That's the only way you can win, isn't it? I bet you some of those women over there beat you, don't they, Thomas?
They get pretty close.
Yeah, I bet they do. All right, these boys in the control room, they're out of control. You guys know that, right? All right, go over to Brannon Howse. No, go over to worldviewtube.com/supporters, worldviewtube. Then we're going to get to Colonel Maness. worldviewtube.com/sponsors. These are all the sponsors that help make the program possible. I've already mentioned 2 of them. You got to get a satellite phone. I have one. Here it is. And it really works. It really is my satellite phone. And the minutes roll over from month to month. I love that because I don't use it very often. But when I do, you don't want to have to worry about, am I chewing up all my minutes and you're going to get some big bill? No, because you can roll your minutes over month to month thanks to the generosity of Tina. You know what, boys? I just had my gatatana and my Bella Grace, and my blood sugar is 105 and holding steady. Did that sum up? I bet your blood sugar is like 200 and something right now, Jeb. You're gonna be pre-diabetic before you know it if you're not careful, boys. So there you go. Go to worldviewtalk.com. 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 Get your satellite phone, get your solar generator. You know, we always talk about the power grid and the problems with the power grid, particularly these data centers. Patrick Wood said it's not a matter of if, but when one or more of the three grids go down due to these silly power data centers they're building and all the power it takes. So make sure you have a solar generator at the very least, right? Your Starlink, that's free. You sign up for one of their very reasonable monthly plans. By the way, that satellite phone is also free when you sign up for one of their very reasonable monthly plans. You can also use that number 1-866-738-3224, 1-866-738-3224. By the way, I should mention real quick, the other thing I do every day, I keep a bottle of this on my desk. I hit the bottle, Logan, when I'm working at my desk sometimes. That would be the bottle of Newman. I switch with Newman. to detox my cells and to remove mercury from my brain because I do not want Alzheimer's, dementia, or Parkinson's. Okay? If you don't want to end up like Joe Biden, you might want to get on Newman. It's an all-natural occurring molecule in your body that starts to decrease around age 20. If you don't have glutathione, did I say the molecule is Newman? The molecule is glutathione. If you don't have glutathione, you die. You have to have glutathione. But the problem is our body isn't making enough. So swish with this, and you get glutathione in your system within 90 seconds. I swish with that about twice a day. All right. That there, folks, is just about all I have time for because we got to get to it. You'll find more there at worldviewtube.com/sponsors, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. All right, let's get going. Joining me now is another one of our national security experts, Colonel Rob Maness. He has his own broadcast right here at worldviewtube.com each and every day, 2 p.m. Central, 3 Eastern. And that would be, what time? That would be noon, California time. All right. Venezuela. Listen to what the press secretary said today about troops and Venezuela.
And there's 4,000 Marines on board. Are you looking at the possibility of boots on the ground there?
What I will say with respect to Venezuela, President Trump has been very clear and consistent. He's prepared to use every element of American power to stop drugs from flooding into our country and to bring those responsible to justice. The Maduro regime is not the legitimate government of Venezuela. It is a narco-terror cartel. In Maduro, it is the view of this administration, is not a legitimate president. He is a fugitive head of this cartel who has been indicted in the United States for trafficking drugs into the country.
Venezuela.
All right, so there you go. So they're going to put these 4,000, what are they, Marines, Colonel? Were they going to put them on a ship somewhere off the coast of Venezuela?
Yeah, it's called the Amphibious Readiness Group, an ARG. USS Iwo Jima, I think, is part of the task force for the Amphib Group, and it's got the Marine Expeditionary Unit. I think it's 22nd Marine Expeditionary. So what we use when we need to do business.
All right, so he's not saying, she's not saying, neither one of them, president or press secretary, is saying, oh, no boots on the ground. They said the opposite. We're going to do whatever we have to do. We're done with Maduro letting drugs flow into the U.S. Apparently, they think he's the head of a drug cartel.
That's what she said. There wasn't any thinking about it. She confirmed it. They say that he is the head of the drug cartel. He's been indicted. They've named those groups that they're sending into the United States that are trafficking this fentanyl as narco-terrorist organizations and international terrorist organizations. And this is an appropriate use of American power in the Western Hemisphere. Look, we in the MAGA community have been calling for an end to the killing of 100,000 Americans by fentanyl every year. And this is part of it. We're sending the Navy down there with this amphibious group. So they're going to patrol the seas. I would hope that they'll interdict any transportation of drugs and narco-terrorists coming out of Venezuela or any other country. Interdict that and put an end to it.
Here's another clip by her. Here you go.
What I will say with respect to Venezuela, President Trump has been very clear and consistent. He's prepared to use every element of American power to stop drugs from flooding into our country and to bring those responsible to justice. The Maduro regime is not the legitimate government of Venezuela. It is a narco-terror cartel. In Maduro, it is the view of this administration, is not a legitimate president. He is a fugitive head of this cartel who has been indicted in the United States for trafficking drugs into the country.
There you go. I think there's a bounty of $50 million on his head, right?
I think so, yeah.
You wanna round up some former special forces and oversee them, and we can go in and get, because we could use that $50 million. I bet you and I could use it. You could use it for whatever you want. We could use it to expand Worldview Tube.
We certainly could. Certainly could. I think the Marines might be going to beat us to it, though.
Yeah, it sounds like it. All right. So do you think that's just flexing out there? Or do you think our own government is working in country now to have him either arrested, assassinated, removed, and we're going to do regime change in Venezuela?
Well, this president put our adversaries on notice that in the Western Hemisphere, the United States is going to reassert its national security priorities and establish a stronger defense of the Western Hemisphere and align ourselves with what do we call it? The Monroe Doctrine, which says if you're from another part of the world and you bring your government forces in here to try to control this area, we're going to oppose you. And that's what we're doing. And I'm glad that he's doing it, because the only way to get to this narco trafficking and the 100,000 deaths of Americans every year is to go after it. I was advocating for, and I'm pleased to know that his administration has designated some of these cartels as international terrorist organizations so that we can use military force against them if necessary. But at a minimum, it's there intended to deter them and get them to cease operations out of Maduro's country and others.
Well, a few years ago, we had a clip by then, I think, CIA Director Pompeo saying that China was in Venezuela, Iran was in Venezuela, Hezbollah was in Venezuela. How much of this has to do with that? And then we had rumors flying around that Iran was flying a flight from Tehran into Caracas, Venezuela, northern Venezuela, about 1,264 miles as a crow flies to Miami. And that Iran was flying in a flight all the time there. And if you wanted to try to get a ticket on board, you could book it months in advance. You're not getting one, meaning it was a government plane. Now, who were they flying in there, and what were they doing? Some, I could never find confirmation. Some were speculating they were setting up missiles in northern Venezuela. I don't know. I wonder what this administration knows, what they're concerned about, if they're concerned about more than just drugs.
Yeah, we've known for a long time the Iranians have been cooperating militarily with the Venezuelans that do joint exercises in the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico, the southern part of the Gulf of Mexico, and those kind of things. They've flown their planes in there, obviously. And you're probably right. It's government aircraft that are going in there. Their Navy has home ported out of Venezuela when they were operating in this area. So now they're really small, but that doesn't mean that they're not effective. As you can see, I mean, they killed thousands of Americans through their Iraqi proxies in the Iraq War, and they're right next door. But they have a capability of intelligence and terrorism and a small military capability that could be useful to Caracas and Maduro.
Let's talk about this here over at worldviewtube.com. Breaking: U.S. military raid in Syria eliminates ISIS leader in waiting. U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, forces conducted a targeted raid in northern Syria, eliminating a senior ISIS member identified as a potential successor to the group's leadership, along with a key financial official, as reported by Fox News. An article we have at worldviewtube.com tonight. What are your thoughts on this?
Good to see that we're still going to take out these kind of people, but the government of Syria is led by a founder of al-Nusra, which was Al-Qaeda, and has been affiliated with the ISIS groups in Syria before, and we've installed him and are protecting him. So, I get it. I think it's a good thing that we continue to remove these people from planet Earth. because of the situation that they put the world in, especially since 9/11. But we've got to get focused and make sure that we're focusing on all of our Islamist enemies, because we know the Iranians have pushed people into the United States. It's just a matter of time. We know Al-Qaeda is training still in Afghanistan under the tutelage and the protection of the Taliban. We know it for a fact. We know that Al-Qaeda is trying to make sure it stays aligned with al-Jilani in Syria. And we know that Al-Qaeda has operatives inside the United States. And we also know that they want to conduct an operation on the homeland that's bigger than 9/11. Those are the things that we know. And the American people are lulled into a false sense of security because we're establishing these relations with guys like al-Jilani in Syria and those kind of things. And we've left Afghanistan, so people tend to forget it. But the Taliban have taken over. They're using millions of taxpayer dollars. Hopefully the Trump administration has shut that craziness off. But the Al-Qaeda camps are back in action. The training camps are back in action in Afghanistan. So Al-Qaeda is still a threat. It's going to continue to be a threat. And the threat is real. And we need to get focused on that.
What do you make of this headline tonight? Tulsi Gabbard acts as nearly half of spy agency staff in earthquake deep state shakeup. She put out a memo, and it will save taxpayers over $700 million per year. But of course, the concern is, hopefully, she fired the bad guys, not the good guys, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're going after the resistors. That's what I call them, the resistors that are Biden holdovers. But it's worse than that, Brannon. The problem inside the United States government, especially on our defense, our intelligence, our foreign policy institutions, that environment has been being used since at least the Obama days to hire individuals into the career civil service that are not loyal to the Constitution and the American people. They're loyal to an ideology, and it's the Democrat ideology that has become more and more radical as the decades have gone by. And it's so radical. I've got an article coming out in AMAC tomorrow, taking on the radical generals, as some other people have been writing about this week, because the New York Times keeps running articles defending people like Doug Sims, who's the director of operations on the Joint Staff right now, U.S. Army, that the deputy of the task force set up by the Secretary of Defense and appointed by the President of the United States, the civilian deputy of the task force to review the Afghanistan withdrawal debacle, ordered Doug Sims to provide all the records and evidence needed to review that operation, and he refused to do it. And he told him, what did he tell him? I'm not going to do it because you don't have a Democrat on your task force.
Oh, wow.
That is the kind of general that should scare the you-know-what out of every single American.
Oh, yeah.
The United States of America does not tolerate elite military officer culture like that.
Well, it's getting so bad with the Democrats. Studies show Democrats losing registration rates in all 30 states that track party affiliation. 4.5 million voters swing toward the GOP. So I'm reading articles saying that the GOP's in big trouble. They're collapsing. It's horrible. Then I read polls like this. What do you think, Colonel?
Oh, I thought you were going to show a video. I'm sorry about that. Look, I think that's great. But if it's coming out of the New York Times, we should be questioning it. Why are they putting this poll out? What's their objective? Because the New York Times is not a press outlet. It's a propaganda outlet.
Oh, right.
And it's a propaganda outlet for the progressives in this country, the Marxists, the communists like Mondami, who's the Democrat nominee for mayor in New York City, the financial capital of the world with 8.2 million people. So we should be questioning that. But that's where they should be in my mind. So, even though I'm questioning it, I'm glad to see it. I'm glad to see the New York Times was forced to put it out if they've been forced to put it out. But look at where the popularity of Congress is and the popularity of Republicans in Congress is right now. And you'll see that it's worse than it's ever been for both parties, really. But we've got 2026 coming up. And if we don't hold the Congress, then this president is not completely dead in the water because he's one of the smartest people that's ever held that office. He'll still get stuff done, but it won't be done in a way that could be permanent.
That's exactly right.
And not be overturned by the stroke of a pen.
Let's move overseas. What are your thoughts on the IDF calling up 60,000 reservists? I guess they're looking at a 6-month assault on Gaza City. I think President Trump's saying, come on, finish this thing up. But he's also saying, you got to do what you got to do. 6-month assault, 60,000 reservists. We had our reporter on the ground, Aaron Navarco, on radio/TV today at 1 o'clock Central, 2 Eastern. What are your thoughts on this, Colonel?
Israel cannot exist as long as Hamas exists. Hamas has got to be treated like Nazi Germany. And if any other players want to ally with them, they've got to be treated like the Axis powers of Nazi Germany. They have to be eradicated completely from the face of the earth and to never, ever hold power again, even if there's one of them left. And the only way to do that is there's two ways. One, Hamas unconditionally surrenders, puts the white flag up, walks out, gives their arms up, and leaves the area, turns himself in to the IDF, or the IDF and Israel has to go in and completely remove them house by house if necessary. And unfortunately, that's what it takes in this type of built-up area. It's the most built-up area in ground and air and naval combat operations in the history of mankind.
And yet,
in such a concentrated area.
We're seeing polls that show that a certain percentage of Americans, actually what they're saying is most Americans, believe that Israel's response in Gaza was excessive. Others are saying they want to see a Palestinian state recognized. Here's the problem, I say. If you were to ask the average American in this poll, who is Hamas? Tell me about their charter. Who started Hamas? They won't know the answers to any of these questions.
No, they wouldn't even, most of them probably wouldn't even know what October 7th, 2023 was.
Right.
And that's unfortunate, but I think I'm right about it. It's my opinion.
I agree with you.
And that's the bad part is the attention span of the American people is that of the size of a gnat sometimes, especially when it comes to foreign policy. And quite frankly, this is Israel's business that they need to take care of. I've said it all along, either unconditional surrender or completely go in, eradicate them, occupy it, and then turn the ground back over to a peace-loving people. If there are any that are there, look, 90-something% of Palestinians in Gaza supported October 7th. Many of them, the civilians that participated in that were civilians.
Yep,
they weren't all Hamas
and
people.
They took the hostages to the homes of civilians.
Yeah, there were UNWRA employees participating in October 7th, and people calling themselves press participating in October 7th. That kind of ideology cannot be allowed to exist by Israel. If it were that happened in the United States, we would fight them until they were ground to dust under our tank treads and never to exist again.
And yet, I'll close with this one. Look at this from my friend Daniel Greenfield. Representative Rashida Tlaib and Muslim terrorists traded for October 7th hostages to appear at the same event. Can you believe this? Is this news to you? Did you read this today, or are you?
Yeah. Why is this administration's Secretary of State's office? And I think Marco Rubio is doing a fantastic job. He may be the best Secretary of State we've ever had in this country. But why is there an office approving that guy to set foot on American soil? He is a danger to me and my family by his very existence on American soil. There is no telling who he'll be coordinating with or what he's going to be doing, and he shouldn't be allowed in this country. But we've allowed it, and now we have a congresswoman who's, she's Palestinian heritage, and like many on the left, as we've seen, and some on the right too, they say, well, I'm a Palestinian. I got to take care of Palestine, or whatever it's called. And that's not what their job is. Their job is to take care of the United States of America. And it's not in our interest to be aligned with the PLO or PIJ or Hamas or any of those organizations that use terror to try to change their politics of their adversaries.
Indeed. And I'll remind everybody that these articles are over at worldviewreport.com. Worldviewreport.com, your daily aggregated news site. Worldviewreport.com. The Colonel, his website is Colonel, or it is actually just robmaness.com. robmaness.com. And he's on each and every day, 2 Central, 3 Eastern, right here at Worldview Tube. And you'll find his show as well at robmaness.com. Colonel, as always, thank you for all your great insights and information.
Thank you, Brandon.
Colonel Rob Maness checking in tonight, guys. robmaness.com. We'll be right back after this break. Hello, I'm Brannon Howse. Would you like to gain access to over 20 years of my radio shows, TV shows, my books? I've written 15 books, and most of those books are ebooks now. And we have conference DVDs, conferences where we filmed our conferences at the Ozarks, literally starting 20 years ago. It's all available in our archived vault. All you have to do is go to worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, and for a reasonable monthly fee, you gain access to over 20 years of Christian worldview programming, news, information, books, documentaries, and a powerful search engine. And folks, it's a great way not only to educate yourself, equip yourself, but it's a big way that you can help fund our continuation as a broadcast network. Please check it out. worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, and help us continue pushing out a Christian worldview. Joining me now is Alex Newman of libertysentinel.org. We also carry his broadcast here on Worldview Tube. And oh, by the way, he'll be the keynote speaker, one of the keynote speakers at our national conference coming up Friday night, October 3rd, Saturday, October 4th. Full details at worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. And if you want to live stream it and miss out on half the blessing, which is being there with other people and talking to the speakers in person, then you can pick up 50% of what the conference has to offer by streaming it online. And you can join at the vault level, 1-year membership to live stream at worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault. He joins us now to discuss a lot of issues. He joins us by phone. Alex, thanks for joining us tonight. Appreciate it.
Great to be here. Thank you very much for having me, Brandon.
Let's go into a couple issues that are very important and near and dear to our heart. Number one is the attack on families, the attack on homeschoolers, religious liberty. We've been talking a lot about the bill in California that's passed the House, headed to the Senate. Jack Hibbs had a big rally yesterday. We had him on last night. I want to go to Illinois, where they're also going after families. But first, your thoughts on the bill in California, because that doesn't affect just California. If anybody's kid or grandkid is taken and can get to California, it sounds like the state government is going to do everything in their power to help change the child's last name and hide that child from any of their family members seeking to find them that's been kidnapped or sex trafficked. I mean, I can hardly believe I'm even saying this, but this is what the attorneys are telling us. And not just one, multiple attorneys are saying this is what's in the bill.
Yeah, it is so outrageous, Brandon. You're right. It's hard to imagine that we're even having this discussion. As far as I'm concerned, California is trying to make itself complicit in kidnapping, child sex trafficking, child genital mutilation. I mean, these people are totally out of control. And as you know, Brandon, I'm not usually a big fan of having the federal government step in and take the reins on almost anything. But when you have a situation like this, right, the U.S. Constitution, when the states joined, they agreed to give up certain powers. They agreed that they were going to have a Republican form of government. They agreed that they were going to protect the God-given rights of the people in their state. And these people are completely out of control now. As far as I'm concerned, these people are trying to perpetrate a massive crime against the parents, not just of California, but of other states. And I think it's time for the Department of Justice to start looking at criminal charges. This is just unconscionable, and we need to stop pretending like this is just a difference in political opinions. We're talking here about people proposing to commit serious criminal acts under color of law, which is a felony. Right? Depriving somebody of their constitutionally protected rights under color of law is a felony. punishable with very, very serious prison sentences, and in some cases, even harsher. So I do think we need the DOJ to start looking at this issue here, because these people are out of control, and if they are not stopped, we'll see the same madness in Illinois and New York and New Jersey and a whole bunch of other left-wing Democrat states.
Absolutely. There's something going on in Illinois. Again, people are going to duplicate this, I promise you. Before I tell you what's happening in Illinois, my second book in 1993, Cradle to College, An Educational Abduction. I talked about a program that came out of Missouri called Parents as Teachers. It should have really been called Teachers as Parents. And what they would do is they would go into the homes to do home visits. And a lot of people would maybe volunteer that are lower income and wanting to get some kind of assistance. Other people were being encouraged to just do it, maybe from the hospital. Hey, we can have someone come by and help you and encourage you and just check out if there's any way we can help you with your situation as a new mom. And people, not knowing, okay, sure, fine, whatever. And so they had these home visits. And there was criteria that was set for determining whether a child was so-called at risk. And as I detail in that book in 1993, every child would be at risk. Too many toys, too few toys, lack of stimulation, overstimulation, a parent who travels frequently, a death in the family, moving to a new home, loss of a job. I mean, everybody could have been allergies. Everybody could be classified as at risk. And then the more at-risk kids you had in a county, the more state money you got. The more at-risk kids you had in a state, the more federal money you got. And now we were warning then, don't be shocked when the government forces home visits and finds every family is at risk and needs a social worker to oversee that family. And we know that because of the Washington Star back in the 1960s and the forerunner to the Department of Education, educational welfare, had a program where they were openly stating they wanted to computerize and open a file to every child in the country and write a prescription for the family when there was a problem. Well, this doesn't shock me what you're writing about. Here it is. Alex is writing about it at the libertysentinel.org. Illinois mandates, quote, mental health, end quote, testing of all children. Tell me about this, and how does it look compared to what I just described from my 1993 book, Alex?
Well, thank you, Brannon. So what just happened in Illinois, the far-left governor, J.B. Pritzker, one of the leading transgender advocates, him and his family in the world, he just signed into law a bill that is going to require a mandatory mental health screening of every child in the government indoctrination camp, starting in 3rd grade all the way through 12th grade. Every year, they're going to do these screenings. They're going to be asked incredibly sensitive questions about how they feel, what they're thinking about, how their home life is, their relationships, their sexual activity. And then these government bureaucrats will, of course, put that all into the file on each child. It'll be processed through the AI, and then these children could be referred for further, quote-unquote, treatment. They can be drugged. Obviously, Big Pharma stands to benefit in a huge way. They fund about 90% of the state legislators in Illinois. Their campaign contributions are coming from big pharmaceuticals. This is one of the most intrusive assaults on the rights of parents and the rights of children, even privacy, basic privacy about what's going on in your mind, that we've ever seen in American history. But to your point, Brannon, this is actually a global agenda. The UN has an agreement called the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. The U.S. government is one of only 2 governments in the world that have not ratified it yet. But when it was implemented in Scotland, they actually cited this in their legislation, saying that every child born in Scotland is going to have a named government minder who is going to oversee their development and their upbringing from the time they're years old until adulthood, and that's where they're going worldwide. More and more, we're watching parents being replaced, and one of the things that this UN convention calls for says that every decision for the child must be made in the best interests of the child, which sounds really nice until you realize that the best interest of the child will be determined not by the parent, but by the government. So we're talking here about the total elimination of the rights and the authorities and the responsibilities of parents and the usurpation of those rights and authorities and responsibilities by an out-of-control government that literally kills babies and mutilates children.
Do you think we're going to get a favorable reading, a ruling from the Supreme Court on parental rights soon in any cases?
Well, there's a friend of mine who actually, her case is being considered by the Supreme Court right now. Her name is Erin Lee. I first met her a few years ago. Her cousin is a good friend of ours, and they transgenderized her 12-year-old daughter. They told her to stay for an after-school art club. Turns out it was a Genders and Sexualities Alliance club, and they convinced this little 12-year-old girl that she must have been born in the wrong body, that she was transgender, that her parents were not a safe space, so she couldn't talk about it to them. And when the parents found out and pulled the daughter out of school, they talked about sending CPS in. They did a wellness check to make sure that, because the parents weren't being affirming, the presumption was that they are abusive. And her case is now being considered by the U.S. Supreme Court for consideration. So I think the Supreme Court is going to take up one of these cases very soon. But unfortunately, even though we supposedly have a conservative majority, I would argue that we don't. We have a statist majority that occasionally does the right thing like a broken clock, but more often than not, if we're not paying close attention, they will legitimize and even authorize a lot of these assaults on our basic rights. So I'm not going to put my hope and trust in the Supreme Court. I do think they're going to take a case on this soon, but I'm afraid it's not going to go the way that we hope it will.
In that book in 1993, Reclaiming a Nation at Risk, that I wrote, I quoted then Secretary of Education for President George H. Bush, Lamar Alexander, who was for years the U.S. Senator from our state of Tennessee. He was the governor. He gave up his governorship to become the Secretary of Education for George H. Bush, which George H. Bush unveiled in the Rose Garden, America 2000, which became, of course, Goals 2000 under Bill Clinton, and then No Child Left Behind under George W., Race to the Top, Common Core under Obama. It all comes from the UN, as you stated. And Lamar Alexander openly bragged that they were going to create federally funded one-stop centers where the government would train you for the job if you lose your job, but they would even have babies in these centers, and that they would be open from early in the morning till late at night. And basically your whole life would revolve around the government social center. That was in my book in 93. That was a Republican, so-called Lamar Alexander. Here's another headline at Liberty Sentinel. Chicago expands parental replacement centers disguised as schools. Sounds very familiar again, doesn't it, to my book in 93, what you're reporting at libertysentinel.org, Alex?
It sure does, Brannon. And Lamar Alexander was actually the chief sponsor in the Senate in 2015 of a bill called the Every Student Succeeds Act, which was the bill that opened up the floodgates of federal funding for exactly these institutions. They call them full-service community schools. In Chicago, they're calling them sustainable community schools, but it's the same model. They are parental replacement centers. I mean, that's my term, but that's what they are. It used to be that the schools would handle, quote unquote, the academics, and then parents would do everything else. Well, these full-service community schools that Lamar Alexander pushed through the U.S. Senate back in 2015, Obama called it a Christmas miracle. They are going to be in charge of your child's mental health, dental health, nutrition. They're going to feed them breakfast, lunch, and dinner. If you're lucky and you behave yourself, you might still be allowed to do the bedtime stories and the goodnight hugs. But other than that, I mean, you are being pushed out of the picture entirely by these so-called community schools. And Lamar Alexander has been right at the center of it for decades.
Well, there you go. He didn't give up on that. All right. Let's talk about some big climate change conference coming up. You're going to, is that right?
Well, God willing, yeah, we have put in our application. I've gone to almost every UN climate summit for the last 15 years. They really don't like us, but we do plan to go. It's going to be in November in Brazil. It's the biggest climate summit ever. They're expecting over 100,000 people chopping down huge parts of the rainforest to make it all happen. And I understand from sources within the Trump administration, they're not planning on participating in a big way, which is encouraging. But what these people do every year under the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, which is the underlying treaty ratified in 1992, they come together, usually in a nice resort town. This year it'll be in Belém in Brazil. and they come up with a new and improved climate agreement. And they say, oh, you don't need to have your Senate ratify that. It's just an addition to the previously ratified treaty, the 1992 UNFCCC. So they're planning big, big things. Last year, they announced the first ever international regulations for global carbon markets. The year before that, they set up the loss and damage system to transfer wealth looted from the American middle class to third world dictators. The year before that, Joe Biden and John Kerry pled guilty on behalf of Americans for our alleged role in causing the climate crisis. And this comes, Brannon, by the way, in the context of one of the most important court cases in the history of the world, is how the UN is framing it. Just a couple weeks ago, the International Court of Justice ruled that all governments have an obligation under international law to combat the climate crisis by limiting, reining in carbon dioxide emissions. Carbon dioxide, as a reminder for folks, is the gas you exhale. And they said any government that doesn't do an adequate job of this is committing what they described as an internationally wrongful act. So under this ruling, they're laying the groundwork for punishing people in the future who don't fight the quote-unquote climate crisis with enough vigor. And I encourage people to look at this. There was almost nothing about it in the American media, certainly no in-depth reporting, no 24-hour news coverage about it. But this is one of the most consequential cases in the history of humanity. And they themselves are saying it is going to shape policy on energy, transportation, farming, the environment, agriculture, everything you can think of all over the world. And so that's the backdrop in which this UN COP30, the 30th Conference of the Parties, is taking place. And now all these dictators, all these governments will be able to say, look, we have to do this. Otherwise, we're committing an internationally wrongful act, a human rights violation. We're violating people's right to a good climate. So it's hard to overstate the enormity of this attack on freedom and sovereignty, Brandon.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Of course, then you can figure out where social credit scores, Palantir, getting a file on every American, you can understand where that starts coming in then, right?
Exactly right. And your carbon footprint is going to be a major component of your social credit score. They're already saying this. For people who listen to like the World Economic Forum's meetings, they're telling you that your carbon footprint is going to play a huge role in what you're able to do in the future. And they're bragging that through digital currency, they're able to create an individual carbon footprint tracker. And once you've exceeded your allotted carbon budget, you're done. No more travel, no more steak, no more fuel, no more nothing. So this is, again, an enormous attack on prosperity, on the middle class, on the sovereignty of nations, on self-government, and, of course, on our individual liberties.
And, of course, here comes 15-minute cities then. It fits right into that, right?
Absolutely. And again, if you don't go along with all this, you're committing an internationally wrongful act because you're contributing to the human right violation of people not having a nice climate. So, I realize that people listening think that sounds like the most ridiculous thing I ever heard, because it is ridiculous. But this is what they are doing. And I encourage people to look it up and urge your member of Congress to push back. Trump's doing pretty much everything he can with his executive authority to push back on this agenda. But if we don't get this stuff enshrined into law, what they are going to do is exactly what they did. One, everything Trump has done will be reversed, and we'll be right back where we started with this climate hoax.
Tell me things that you're happy about, things that you're concerned about in the first 6 months here of the Trump administration, or 7 months.
Well, on the climate front, I could not have written a better playbook for dismantling the climate fraud. Starting on day one, he started with the executive orders, reversing everything that he could from Joe Biden. He now has reversed, or he started the process of reversing the endangerment finding that found that carbon dioxide is pollution and therefore must be regulated under the Clean Air Act. Very, very encouraging, very, very good work. Now what I hope he will do is go for the UNFCCC. We've got to get out of that treaty. We never should have ratified it in the first place, and it's not constitutional, so it's illegitimate. So on the climate front, Trump is doing great things. On the spending, I'm very concerned. He's got the veto pen, and he's got the bully pulpit. He needs to be telling these members of Congress to cut it out. I understand that he is looking carefully at international or the reforming or even abolishing of the reserve system, and maybe the repealing of the Federal Reserve Act. I hope he will move in that direction. That's what we need. So I've been very pleased with some of the international negotiations he's done, very pleased with his efforts to rein in the globalism. He got us out of UNESCO, the UN Education Agency. He's getting us out of the World Health Organization. He's doing a lot. He actually officially rejected the 2030 agenda and told the UN to their face that we're not going to be playing along with this fraud anymore. So all that is very, very good. I would like to see him work with Congress to get some of these things enshrined into federal law. And I wish he would stop going after members of Congress who are calling out the overspending and the constitutional violations and things like this one big, beautiful bill. But, it's a mixed bag. We don't put our trust in princes or politicians. We put our trust in the Lord. But I think certainly Donald Trump is doing a lot of very, very good things. I am a little bit concerned, too, about the agenda for federal school choice. I think Trump means well, but we know that the next time we have a deep state Democrat puppet in the White House, they're going to use all of that architecture to try to seize control of our private schools and our home schools.
Mm-hmm. How concerned are you about all the data centers that are being built and their pull on the power grids? Patrick Wood says they're going to be building an alternative power center that is just for the data centers. We're all going to be left with this third world antiquated power grid that needs to be drastically updated and massively protected from EMP and other things. And they're going to leave us with this junk power grid, and they're going to build their own. They're going to have their own nuclear power and their own lines running. But in the meantime, they have to run off ours, and our bills are going to skyrocket. And Patrick says it's not a matter of if, but when the power grid, one or all three, go down due to these power data centers sucking too much power till they get their own. How concerned are you, Alex?
Extremely. And not just because of the taxing of our energy grid and the massive power bills. I mean, some places they're seeing now $1,000 a month power bills up in the Northeast. I mean, it is absolutely crazy. These very same globalists, after decades of telling us we couldn't build power plants, we had to shut down our coal-fired power plants, couldn't build nuclear power plants. Now they're telling us, oh, but we need all your power, and you don't have much left thanks to the windmills and the solar panels. So that's a disgrace. But even more concerning for me is the fact that they're using all these data centers and these AI systems to enslave us. And I don't think that's Donald Trump's intention, but I think he's getting some very bad advice from people like Peter Thiel, from some of the tech bros out in Silicon Valley. They're now just trying to use him to advance their technocratic agenda that Pat Wood, of course, describes so well.
Are you, we're hearing, that the Attorney General of Missouri, Bailey, is going to be going in as a deputy FBI director. You think we're about to see a shakeup at the FBI?
I hope so. I mean, the FBI has been a pretty major disappointment. I had Kash Patel on my show for half an hour shortly before he became the FBI director. And from hearing him talk, you'd think that, the country was saved, right? He's talking about going after the real criminals, the deep staters, the Russia collusion hoaxers, the traitors, the Epstein-related things. And what we've seen is worse than a disgrace. I mean, just last week, they gave an award to the FBI agent that was involved in murdering Lavoy Finicum. So we've got a real problem at the FBI, and I don't know exactly what's going through Kash Patel's mind. I'm not sure what's up with Dan Bongino, but I'll say I've been less than impressed, and I think we really do need a major shakeup. And if these guys can't handle it, if they're not doing the investigations and getting criminal charges ready with the DOJ, then it's time to step aside and let somebody else take those roles.
What about Pam Bondi?
I've never been a huge Pam Bondi fan. She was our attorney general in Florida, and the thing that she was best known for in our circles was helping to frame Zimmerman in the Trayvon Martin case. Even though there was not enough evidence to go after him, they had to basically create the case from fraudulent stuff. So I'm not a big Pam Bondi fan. I hope she will do the right thing. I know she's done some good stuff, and I mentioned my friend Erin Lee earlier. She actually represented Erin in her court battles over this issue with her 12-year-old daughter that was transgenderized by the government school. So I'm hoping we'll see more, but we've got a long way to go before we can have confidence in the DOJ again. Okay,
one more before we let you go, Alex. What are your thoughts in regards to the division that's been created in MAGA? I read some people that are out there almost daily defending Putin. Look, I just call them the way I see them, right? I think this war was set up. Yes, Putin invaded. I would say, yes, he started it. But we certainly, as Peter Price said at this desk before he passed away and warned, we should have given him the guarantees. We're not going to let Ukraine come into NATO. We're not going to drag weapons up to his border. And yet we've done everything we can, it seems, to escalate. I think our CIA's been over there involved, helping with technology and the data that's needed to strike deep inside Russia. I think the European leaders want World War III to cover up a financial problem they've got. I'm not convinced any peace deal they get will hold. I pray it does, but I'm not so sure. When I see something that Putin's doing that is not right, I say it. When I see sides where there seem to be poking a stick in his eye and he's maybe even being restrained in some cases, I see it. But I say it. But what I guess I'm trying to get to is I want to present the facts as they are, right? But I see more and more people in the MAGA world really defending Putin. And I don't think you can defend Zelensky. And I don't think there's a lot to defend Putin on other than a few times here and there. I think we got to mess with both these guys. And I think at the end of the day, the globalists want to break up Russia. I think they like to get their minerals. So I think also Putin and China would like to go with a new world order that has them more in control. So I think people that start running around defending Putin, making him out to be the victim all the time, in a few years might be shocked, if he continues living, because I think he's trying with China to rebound, and he's making a greater alliance with North Korea now. What are your thoughts as there are so many people now just so aggressively defending Putin?
Yeah, I'm very concerned about Putin. I've argued for a long time. I did a major investigation in 2014 for the New American Magazine where we showed the real Putin. I mean, the guy is fulfilling his role in the globalist script to a T, building up the Eurasian Union. He's terrorizing the Europeans so that they'll give up more sovereignty and create a military union and all the rest of it. And, of course, he is still an unrepentant and largely unreformed communist, even though he's not a part of the Communist Party officially anymore. So I think Putin is a very dangerous guy. We're actually reprinting a 2007 article by my colleague William F. Jasper in our next edition of the New American, because we were warning about this 20 years ago. I think Putin and the Communist Chinese are getting ready to do what Anatoly Golitsyn described back in the 1980s. They're getting ready for a second October revolution where they try to bring the entire world under the control of a totalitarian global system. And the worst part of this, and I don't think Anatoly Golitsyn saw this, is that his biggest, their biggest boosters, aiders, and defenders and abettors are in the Western world, the globalists, the mega banks, et cetera. So I think they did this by design, and I think we are in a very, very dangerous situation. And now, certainly that should not be interpreted as a defense of Zelensky, but I think the globalists want a third world war. And I think if they can get it with Russia or Ukraine, if they can get it with the Koreas, if they can get it with India, Pakistan, I don't think they care that much, but they know that a third world war would be excellent for the purpose of speeding up this process of globalism that they're so desperate to impose on humanity before enough people wake up.
I know I said one more, but I just got to add this into that, and that is if they can't divide MAGA over Zelensky and Putin, then maybe they can divide MAGA over Israel. So there's another division point, and that's, I think, again, one of my concerns that the coalition is being divided.
Yeah, and that's by design, of course, Brandon. You and I both know that. Yep. Divide and conquer, very old strategy. They know that if patriotic Americans unite on the 80 to 90% of stuff that we agree on, we would be a powerful force to reckon with. But if they can divide us, they'll do what they always do and take back over. So it's very, very alarming to see this.
Check it out right here, folks. LibertySentinel.org, LibertySentinel.org. And what is it you're going to be speaking on Friday night at our national conference, October 3rd, Alex?
Well, I think globalism, the fourth industrial revolution, and where all of this is going in terms of the globalization of the digital currency architecture and the transhumanist agenda, and try to wrap it all up into one package so that people can see at least the outlines of the big picture.
Absolutely. Well, you got to be here, folks. That's all there at worldviewstore.com. In the meantime, his website's libertysentinel.org, and we carry his broadcast here on Worldview Tube on the weekends. Alex, safe travels. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it, Brandon.
Alex Newman checking in, and check out his site, libertysentinel.org. Also a keynote speaker Friday night, October 3rd, in the building. You can live stream it with a year membership, but you're not going to be able to walk up and talk to him. But if you are there in person, you will, along with Gordon Chang and all the rest of them. So there's a lot of benefits to being here in person. Hope you'll join us October 3rd, October 4th in beautiful Collierville, Tennessee. Worldviewstore.com. We'll be right back after this break.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work. Try to see a doctor this week or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Go to worldviewhealthcare.com. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. worldviewhealthcare.com. That's worldviewhealthcare.com.
The emergency kit available at worldviewhealthcare.com. Make sure you don't have to go to urgent care. I got pneumonia. I didn't have to go. I took this last year. Stayed at home. Went to bed. Joining me now is the lead pollster for Rasmussen, Mark Mitchell, also a keynote speaker at our 22nd annual national conference coming up Friday night, October 3rd, Saturday, October 4th. Worldviewstore.com to get your tickets, worldviewstore.com. Or again, you can stream if you have a membership to the one-year vault. One-year vault membership, you can live stream at worldviewtube.com/vault. He joins us now, as always, to talk about a lot of stuff. My wife said to me this morning, Mark, hey, you need to get Mark Mitchell back on. I said, he's already booked, hon. For some reason, she really likes a few of our guests. She likes all of our guests, but she has a couple favorites. And for some reason, she really likes it when you come on. I think it might have something to do with your content, but she's also a very bright businesswoman. I think it also has something to do with the fact that you're generous and kind and retweet our interviews, and that gives us more traffic. So I think she has another motive.
Well, hey, any or all of the above, that's great. I used to be in the business world too, so maybe she sees that, and it absolutely kills me to see what has happened there. But there's good news with the CEO of Target resigning now after perpetrating the horrible LGBT stuff that destroyed so many dollars of shareholder value.
Yeah, talk a little bit about that, will you?
No, I mean, it's just, I worked there. I led a 100-person team at Walmart. I understand these corporate people, these wokesters. And I don't think a lot of people understand the scope of the problem. It's not a few people with purple hair in human resources. That's not what we're dealing with. We're dealing with the pervasive worship of non-objective measures in companies and the way that it's created cultures where cohesion and looking, talking, and sounding the right way and following the popular trends are how decisions are made. And that's how you get something where, listen, that CEO of Target, I forget his name, but he resigned today after a massive stock rout because their sales are collapsing. And it might partially be because of the LGBT and woke stuff, but it's also because they redesigned their stores. The new layout's horrible and the stores are always like understocked, and it's just not a great experience. And so he has a fiduciary duty to millions of shareholders in order to do the best thing for the business, right? And when you lean into all of these social trends, they're 5, 10, 20% positions, and you make the rest of America unhappy because you get blowback because you're selling, tuck the wee bathing suits for little boys, like in the kids section in a big display with rainbows all over it. And then after there's blowback, you move it to the back of the store, and now the Rainbow Mafia is mad at you. There's no winners, right? And so what they should be doing is making objective decisions that improve the business. And across the board in companies, that's not what's happened. You look at what's happened in Bud Light. You look at what's happened in Disney. We poll on the Walt Disney Company, and Walt Disney Entertainment is less popular than the most hated man in modern politics, Donald Trump. And so there you are. When your company is polling like a politician, you probably messed up. You probably destroyed a lot of shareholder value. And I don't think Donald Trump's enough to fix it, because I don't see Disney reversing its trajectory. I don't see Target reversing its trajectory. That's the problem.
Let's go to the ding-a-lings at the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, what kind of absolute ding-a-ling do you have to be to think that this is going to appeal to football players? I mean, let me plug it in here. But I mean, who wants to see that?
Oh man, These, the football stadiums are the same crowds that were chanting FJB in the fall of 2021. Like, we have to have a little bit of self-awareness here. And it's like, okay, maybe your fans are super understanding and you'll get away with this one, and then you'll be encouraged and push a little more and push a little more. I think the question is, though, is why is there so much pushing, especially after American Eagle just said, listen, if you just lean into the way that things used to be. What they did was they tried to change America, and then they thought they succeeded. And yet they really didn't fully change America, because that Sydney Sweeney ad looked like something that they would have put up in the 90s, right? And so they go back and they do those kind of optics, and look at that. They gained $400 million in shareholder value in market cap. It's incredible.
Wait. After the I've Got Good Genes with Sweeney, their market cap went up?
Yeah, that's what I heard. $400 million. Let me try and look the stock up.
Maybe I don't even know if they're around anymore. But Victoria's Secret, I'm a married man. I used to buy some stuff for my wife there, and the catalogs would show up, and then pretty soon there's nothing but a bunch of nasty fat chicks. And
yeah, right.
I mean, what happened? Logan and I went into a Target this summer with my wife, and as we walked into the front door, the bathing suit section's on the left. Big old massive billboard of this 300-pound fat chick in a bikini. We had just had dinner. I almost threw up right in the Target store and slipped in it and fell. I said, Logan, who wants to see that? Nobody wants to see that. That would have never been thought of in the that's the new Eagles cheerleader? Oh, brother.
Yeah,
that would have never been thought of in the 1980s and 90s and early 2000s. Hey, let's find the biggest fat chick we can and put her in a bikini, a two-piece, and throw her up on the wall, bigger than life, and hope it sells bathing suits. Yeah. And maybe she's in a two-piece because she can't get it in a all-in-one. Maybe she's just too much there. She can't cram it all in one. She's got to go. She's just so fat she can't get into a big one. She can't get it in a one-piece. Sorry, but that doesn't mean we want to see it, right? And you go around the store, and they have, I keep pointing out to my wife, the ugliest people. God bless them. I hope they have great personalities and they love Jesus. But these are not beautiful people, okay? And I love beautiful things. I love beautiful art. I love beautiful landscaping. I love beautiful music. I love way beautiful women look, that actually look like women, not men. I think we all do, that are guys. And I think ladies appreciate a nice, handsome guy. You can appreciate people's public and professional demeanor and dress without, having, wrong thoughts. But you go out through Target, and I kept pointing out to Logan and my wife. It's like they went looking for the ugliest people they could find that haven't pushed back from a dessert their entire life, and they're modeling clothes, and they're thinking, oh yeah, this is going to make me want to buy. Who comes up with these ideas?
It's postmodern Marxism. They hate beauty, and they want to redefine America. They want to redefine the world and reality. And so if you're mentally infirm and you don't like your current situation, or you think that you want to be a hero and create some victim class that you'd like to worship or something like that, you can't acknowledge the fundamental realities of humanity, which is that humans appreciate strength and beauty. Right? Like, that's pretty fundamental. And for you to be in, let's say, a VP of marketing position where you're trying to convince everybody, no, the way we're going to make our business grow is by ignoring all of human nature and trying to redefine it around inclusivity. And so that's not the way humans work. We don't, on average, read stories about broken people to try and make ourselves feel okay that there are people like us. No, we look up to inspiration. It's positive. And so it's gross, and all of these people are infested in every layer of these companies now, is my theory, having witnessed these things. People who would rather not fix stuff. They would rather be a part of a crowd and fit in and say the same things that corporate wants them to say, the same corporate that's trying to pursue a modern audience that doesn't exist. And, it's easier for these senior vice presidents to look back at themselves and say, you know what, I've been a success. I was able to champion underrepresented minorities. And they pat themselves on the back for that in a town hall, and they get a glossy Forbes cover, when in reality, what they should have done was improve profits 20%. And so how are we going to, this keeps coming back. Every single thing that we've been polling on recently is Donald Trump's in there. He's doing okay. He could be doing better. He's trying to fix a lot of stuff. He's got a lot of wins recently. This debanking executive order, super cool. Trying to fix the census. I really like that.
Getting rid of machines, getting rid of ballots, paper ballots.
Yep. But he can't fix it all.
Yep. By the way, what's that, Logan?
Corrupt.
Mail-in ballots. Yeah, getting rid of mail-in. Go to paper watermark. By the way, Grace Kelly, right? This is what I'm talking about. All right? This is what everyone wants to see, unless you're somehow demented, debased, dark-hearted, a fool. This is the epitome of class. You want to sell jewelry? You want to sell hairspray? You want to sell clothes? This is what you want, people, in executive world. You want class, all right? Grace Kelly, Sophia Loren, Raquel Welch, you don't, I'm sorry, hire Rosie O'Donnell, right? When she was doing her TV show. This is not what people want to see. I'm sorry.
Well, it's more than just physical beauty, too, Brannon. It's the way that they've been treating men for decades.
True.
It's the way that they treat family. And so the very tough acknowledgement is if society has a physical ideal, society also has a moral ideal, and that's a very dangerous proposition for cultural Marxists.
And I think I'm going to add to that because you're right. You don't have to be a knockout beauty to be attractive. Margaret Thatcher, I don't think was a beautiful person, but I thought she was attractive, right? Why? Because she knew how to dress. She knew how to carry herself. She knew how to speak, right? I didn't agree with some of Nancy Reagan's, weird stuff that she did with astronomy, astrology, etc. But she's another perfect example. She was an older lady, but she was a very attractive lady for her age because she knew how to dress. She knew how to carry herself. She knew how to walk and talk, right? We've lost this in our culture. Guys used to be taught how to dress, right? And they went to a tailor and their suits were tailored to them, to fit them. My suits are tailored to fit me. I don't buy my suits off a rack and throw it on like I'm throwing on a bed sheet or towel. They're tailored to me, right? Why? Because I want them to look nice. And if I'm going to spend the money buying a suit, and you don't have to spend a lot of money to get a nice suit. If you want to spend the money to buy a suit, go have it tailored so it fits you and looks well, right? And we used to teach women how to dress and how to walk and how to carry themselves. These were the standards that were rewarded in society and a part of having a good foundation for success. Today, because of socialism, communism, we reward crudeness, we reward ugliness. By people choosing to be crude and rude and ugly. We reward that.
Yeah.
That's socialism, tearing down standards. That's how you destroy society. Now, the Marxists want to encourage that. But you see that going on in China? Look at how their troops train and dress. Are they doing LGBTQ? Are they doing transgender in their military? No. This is what they encourage in our culture to destroy us, right?
Yeah, it's the unholy alliance between cultural Marxists and government and the corporations who, unfortunately, I think the only hypothesis I have is that they've realized that it's more healthy for profits to have unhealthy, broken, victimized, chronically consuming Americans. And so it's hand in glove. The medical industry, they profit more when you're unhealthy, dying, and have chronic illnesses. The food service industry probably does the same. Government has more power. Think about, we probably have 10 trillion of our own debt that comes from the way that our medical industry has regulatory captured the administrators of our American health systems and the FDA and all this other stuff, right? And it's super profitable to force these unhealthy behaviors and long-term chronic treatments on people that the taxpayers have to pay for.
Yep.
And so again, I keep coming back to Trump might fix some stuff, but every one of our companies is rife with people who think this way. All of our institutions, as far as I know, 98% of them are all still the same human beings. And they try to destroy religion and pretend it doesn't exist or can't be a part of this discussion. But this is the question I have for people. How do we return to a situation where companies are run by, let me just give you an example. A fat person is more profitable than a skinny, healthy person. It's just the truth in most situations. And so how do we get to a situation where somebody in charge of a massive company like Target won't take advantage of that? What's stopping?
A fat person is more profitable?
Certainly for health companies, absolutely. Think about how much more money
Medical
the health
care.
industry makes off. Right. For food, all the food, right?
So in other words, all the processed food, all the garbage they pump to make us unhealthy and fat and lazy benefits the medical industrial complex, plus the depopulation, plus
and
the
I don't
disability.
just want to make it about weight too. I mean, I think it's health in every format.
Yes.
Look at divorces, right? If you have two families trying to provide for housing, right? And it's like that's more expensive and drives up housing costs. But one of the really important polls we put out, we put it back out in the end of May. It didn't get a lot of attention, but we did a big one, 2,400 adults. Has a doctor ever diagnosed you with a mental condition? 23% of America says yes, but it's about 35% of Americans under 40. 35% of them. In the past year, have you sought counseling or mental health treatment from a therapist? 30% of adults under 40. These are people who are supposed to be procreating and building families and instilling values in their children. And they have ongoing mental health treatment from therapists, the vast majority of which is probably taxpayer funded through things like Medicaid, right? And then are you currently taking one or more prescription drugs for mental health problems? 18 to 29-year-olds, 26%, like 1/4 of all 18 to 29-year-olds. 30% of 30 to 39-year-olds. 27% of women under 40. 31% of women under 40 are going to therapists. 35% of women under 40 have been diagnosed with a mental condition. 43% of 18 to 39-year-old liberals diagnosed with a mental condition. And so we're really leaning into this destroyed society where everybody's a mess. They have their own personal situations, their personal victimhoods, their own likes and tastes and niche consumption. And the internet is helping us provide that. AI will help us provide it even better. Because if you have somebody that spends all day on TikTok, right? What do you think TikTok powered by like a better AI, a generative AI is going to look like in 5 years? You're going to have people that are essentially on Soma. That's what we're going towards. And so again, we have Donald Trump and he's fixing a lot of these political issues that we have in our institutions. And yet society is still headed, I think, massively for ruin. And, I guess the church has a role. They have to step up. I don't hear them out there talking about these particular kinds of issues. I hear, most of the sermons I've read or heard in the last year have basically been some form of the salvation message, which is an important message. What about the dangers of AI? What about this idea that we do? This is a message that people need to hear. The religion, Christianity, is all about improving yourself and trying to live towards an ideal in order to pursue salvation, right? That is very diametrically opposed to the way our entire social order is operating right now.
Well, again, you were going to justification, faith and trust in Christ, and then justification, ongoing faithfulness and obedience. So people get saved, but now they got to be discipled and instructed on how to think about borders and AI and sexuality and work and money and national security and active euthanasia and marriage. I mean, we just go on and on, right? Law, science, economics, history, family, social issues, education, religion. All those issues we've been nailing with a Christian worldview teaching for years, right? And you're right. A lot of churches won't touch it. They won't touch it. Most of them can't even get salvation right. They are teaching a works-based gospel where they merge justification and sanctification into the same thing, and now you're pursuing works. So most of them can't even get the gospel right, much less can they then go on and say, oh yeah, you know what, active euthanasia, God's not for that. Well, I didn't see active euthanasia in the back of my Bible at concordance. Hey, let's go to the story about Saul and his death.
Yeah.
And it's a condemnation of doctor-assisted or active euthanasia. But most pastors would have no idea you actually have the Bible speaking out against active euthanasia. Well, that's because they don't know the Bible. You're like, well, they went to seminary, Brandon. Yeah, but most of them will tell you they spent most of their time learning marketing and administration, not theology, not doctrine, not the Bible.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of ugliness, Look at the presidential library, the Barack Obama presidential library. The residents in Chicago are livid. They're like, this thing is ugly. It looks like a stinking prison. Some kind of CIA building. Well, that might be appropriate. I think he's a creature of the CIA. But it looks like it's some kind of top secret CIA building.
Yeah, they're allergic to beauty. I don't know what to tell you, Brannon. They don't. This doesn't even have form. Like, just looking at it, there's nothing redeeming about this structure that they're putting up. It does look like some industrial abortion from a video game or something, like some level of Halo. And the only thing I can say is it must be this aspect of cultural Marxism that permeated the movement of the left, and they are immune. They just can't. They can't pursue beauty. They can't pursue idea. This is the, he had Greek columns when he went to speak. Brandon, remember that?
Yep.
Perfect Greek columns adorning his stage. And so I guess it's just gone too far. Now they're stuck and they're captured, and they're a completely radical movement, and they've taken over the Democrat Party, and they're going for broke. You have Gavin Newsom out there who appears to be consolidating the radicals to become the most powerful voice in the Democrat Party.
Oh, let's go to that. Here's a clip. Here's a clip from CNN here on that.
Yeah, I think it absolutely has been working in terms of generating attention, which is what he's trying to do, right? I mean, take a look here. Let's take a look right at the @GovPress office followers on X. That's, of course, where you get those sort of the account where Newsom posts those Trump-style mocking types of tweets. Get this. That account, get this. Up 450% in terms of the number of followers since mid-June. And it's not just on Twitter, X, where Newsom is gaining. Even on TikTok and Instagram, his followers are up over 1 million since January alone. My goodness gracious. And more than that, Laura, more than that. What about Google? What about those Google searches for him? Get this, daily Google searches for Gavin Newsom up like a rocket. What are we talking about? Since June 1, up 1,300%. Compared to August 1st, look at that, up 500%. So the bottom line is, in politics, especially if you're thinking of entering in 2028, it's all about generating attention. And so far, Gavin Newsom has done a good job at generating attention.
The Democrats want it.
Do Democrats want it? Okay. Do Democrats want it? This, I think, is the trend line that I think says it all. Democrats want their leaders to what? Try to stop the GOP or work with the GOP? You go back to 2017, you see here, work with the GOP took the cake at 74% compared to just 23% who said to try and stop the GOP. But now I'm going to come over to your side of the screen, Laura. Look at 2025. I'm coming as close as I can. 57% say they want the Democratic leaders to try and stop the GOP compared to just 42% who say they want them to work with the GOP. That is a major shift. What are we talking about here? Some quick math up here is 34% rise in terms of the percentage of Democrats who want their leaders to try and stop the GOP. So no wonder Gavin Newsom, he's looking at this polling. He's saying, I can generate attention. This is where the Democratic base is. And right now he seems to be following the Democratic base.
Why? For 2028?
For 2028. That is exactly why. And I think the question is it working? Is it working? Well, let's take a look at the betting markets. I think this gives away so much of it. Okay, the chance of being the 2028 Democratic nominee, according to the prediction markets. Look at where we were on June 1st. We basically had a clown car for first. Newsom, AOC, Buttigieg, 11%, 10%, 8%. But look at where we are now. Look at this. Look who's jumped up all the way up to 24% chance, about a 1 in 4 chance of getting the nomination. Gavin Newsom. AOC staying pretty steady at 13%. And then, of course, we have Pete Buttigieg, who has stayed absolutely steady at 8%. So at least at this particular point, the prediction markets are saying, yes, this strategy is paying off. Of course, the key question is, will this actually work when you're trying to actually, votes are being cast and counted? And more than that, will it work for a general electorate? Well, it's early days yet. We'll have to wait and see. But so far, Gavin Newsom has done a pretty gosh darn good job of generating attention for himself and a pretty gosh darn good shot of getting people on television like you and I to talk about it.
Wow. So Gavin Newsom, he's going to beat out, what's her face? How quickly we forget her name. Kamala Harris. Yeah. She's so irrelevant.
I think it was inevitable just based on how she's been carrying herself. She's essentially missing in action. She's been in the news, not at all. If you look at Google search trend volume for the word Kamala Harris, there's no spike. She hasn't done any speeches. She hasn't. And now she was the Democrat She still is, according to my polling, the Democrat frontrunner for the 2028 primary. The last time we tested, she got 32% of the vote to Gavin Newsom's 13%. That's a function of the fact that she was the vice president and she did have a lot of advertisement and positive press. They did basically the biggest psyop in the history of politics to try and convince everybody that that woman was likable. And so that's what he's up against. And he also has some negatives as well. Now, her numbers have been dropping. His numbers have kind of been going up, but she still massively beats him. Now, he is surging to the lead in the betting markets by a 3-1 margin, I think, over the next highest one. And you have to look at like why. And what I see now, if you Google Gavin Newsom and look through Google News, just in the last two or 3 days, there have been a lot of articles out there from places like Politico doing puff pieces for him on what is essentially no news. Like, he hasn't been making news outside of the thing that he did 2 weeks ago, where he came out against this redistricting and has been calling Trump out on Twitter. So I don't know if a decision happened behind the scenes where all of a sudden people said, you know what, we're going to pile behind Gavin Newsom. But what I think he's doing right now is consolidating the radicals in his party. You had people spread out over Buttigieg and Tim Walz and Shapiro and AOC, and every single one of these polls that they look at is a multi-way matchup. So there's like 6, 7, 8 people that they choose from, right? So for Gavin Newsom, I did see him go up. I think it was Echelon maybe put a poll out where Kamala was down to 26 and he was up to 13 or 14. He is still not the front runner according to the polling. He's only front runner according to Polymarkets, and Harry Enton knows that, but I think he was told to come out and put a puff piece out for Gavin Newsom as well. I think that's what you just saw there. Now, also, he said, okay, well, people want the Democrat Party to fight Republicans now. That has nothing to do with Gavin Newsom, nothing to do at all. It's Trump. And the fact that for the last 8 years, they've been trying to convince America that Donald Trump's a dictator, because half of Democrats think that Donald Trump's a threat to democracy. That's the number one issue on the ballot, right? So also, that's a CNN poll. And so I'm not sure necessarily if that number is accurate. And you also don't know what else was asked in advance of that question. Could have been Donald Trump eats kittens. Should the Democrat Party fight the Jews? Like, I'm serious. Like, that's a real consideration. But what I can tell you in polling that was done by me that I know is upstanding is that over 60% of Democrats say that they would like the party to moderate. And on most things, the Democrats are somewhat reasonable. Not everything, but they're somewhat reasonable. But it comes down to, okay, well, they've been gaslit. And a perfect example is on gerrymandering, okay? We just asked, hey, here's an example. Republicans have 45% of the vote in Illinois, but they only hold 18% of the House seats. Does this kind of result undermine American democracy? And 57% of Democrats said, yeah. 20% no. So Democrats don't like the idea of gerrymandering when states deliberately draw congressional districts to favor one party. 84% of Democrats say that that's a serious problem. But then we say, okay, well, which party is more likely to engage in partisan gerrymandering? And Democrats say Republicans are more, 48 to 29%. And so what this ultimately comes down to is, at this moment, Kamala Harris is the polling frontrunner. She's also DOA. She was a loser. I don't think as of now, I don't think the money's going to get behind her. And I think the second she goes out there for debates or marketing or, press junket, she's going to get absolutely obliterated by any of the people who are in what Harry Enton calls the clown car. I don't necessarily think Gavin Newsom has broken out of that as well. The Democrat primary polling market is probably very thin right now. Gavin Newsom could probably manipulate it himself with his own money if he wanted to. So maybe that's what's going on. And then the problem is that I haven't also seen him in my polling win a matchup against J.D. Vance yet. And J.D. Vance, I don't think he has the same kind of name recognition Gavin Newsom does right now. I just don't. I don't think he's been on the public stage as much, even though he's the VP. And then we have this whole situation of, well, what does secession look like on the MAGA side? And what does a handover look like? If it's a glowing endorsement with Trump's backing and significant numbers of rallies and the movement continues, I don't think Gavin Newsom has a chance against J.D. Vance. The problem is November 26th. That's the problem.
Wow. All right. So what do you think is going to happen midterm?
If the election was held tomorrow, Democrats pick up seats, probably gain the majority. Then it's a mess as they completely tank Donald Trump's already relatively non-existent legislative agenda. This has been one of the most embarrassing Congresses, I think, obviously. We all know that. Even though Trump was given a mandate, and even though Mike Johnson came out with very strong language in the beginning of November, talking about how he was going to raise an American First banner over the halls of Congress, objectively, that has not happened. They only have 50 legislative days in session for the rest of this year. I haven't even heard them talk about what they're going to do in the fall. They're probably going to try and stuff as much as possible in this another massive reconciliation bill, and it's going to look like an absolute mess, and people are going to hate it because it feels like D.C., not what they expected Republicans to do when they got into office. And there's a lot of polling that says that things are going bad right now. Only 38% of Trump 2024 voters have a very favorable impression of the Republican Party. So now people say, oh, the Democrat brand is in the tank. Well, like it's not. It's slightly worse than Republicans, but they also don't need that because they have high propensity voters who will turn out. Republicans are running against the couch in November 2026. And with Democrats up 4 in the generic ballot and probably a big public fight over gerrymandering, which Republicans might need to win, but it might be a fair victory because, like I just showed you, Americans hate the idea of gerrymandering, and they think Republicans do it more than Democrats by 5 points.
But that's not true, is it?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I think the Democrats are notorious for going and drawing districts that go long interstates for 100 miles.
Yeah, but they're the cleanest dirtiest shirt for sure. But Republicans do this too. Remember the Wisconsin Supreme Court election back in February, right? Well, Wisconsin is not a 75% Republican state, but Republicans had 75% of legislative districts there. And they're talking about Florida picking up yet another Republican, bringing the Democrats down to whatever it is, 20, 30%, like really low numbers. And so it's not fair to say that it's a Democrat thing. It's probably fair to say that Democrats are more effective at doing things like that, for sure. But Republicans would and try to as well. I think the issue now is it's like one of my followers said it. It's like the NFL fight where somebody throws a punch, but then the ref only sees the retaliatory punch. And so here are the Republicans trying to play smash mouth and catch up with the Democrats. And it looks really undemocratic because, quite frankly, it is. Like, we should not have gerrymandering. And so if Republicans want to win without that, they have to do something different. And they're not doing any of that right now. The most prominent thing that I saw the Republicans do in the last 2 weeks was send a delegate to the Wailing Wall. What else have they done? I mean, I know they're on recess, but let's be honest, we're not getting judicial confirmations through, don't know what the legislative agenda looks like in the fall. And somebody I talked to within Republican circles, he says they're not messaging at all. I hate the way Republicans only message 6 months out from an election. And so they give the higher ground is ceded all of the time to Democrats. And right now, Gavin Newsom is making it about resisting Trump. At a certain point, people are going to look around and say, well, Republicans aren't really doing anything that great. And Trump does some stuff that's good, but I only hear about the stuff he does that's bad. And everybody's saying about how great a leader Gavin Newsom is. Like, that's kind of the way that some of this stuff plays out. So hard to predict where it's going to go. I don't think he's a political winner, but he's not going to be running against Trump. He's going to be running against Vance, who's going to be perceived to have more ties to the Republican Party, having been a Republican senator, and probably having an establishment that has their knives out for him, doesn't want the MAGA agenda, doesn't want the MAGA movement. Republicans are not MAGA. They just aren't. Like, people can say, oh, Trump was in charge of the party. No, he wasn't. Trump is not a Republican, did not take over the Republican Party. The Republican Party has not been changed. It's 98% the same people, just like every other institution. They haven't fired 50% of the FBI. They just haven't done it.
That's right. And we're hearing words that, yeah, and they just got rid of the IRS commissioner. He's going to become the ambassador of Iceland. I don't know what's going on there. I wasn't too happy about that because I actually was texting with the IRS commissioner and trying to get him to fix a problem. And that's not right. That's happened to us. And then boom, he's gone. And now here they're bringing in the Attorney General of Missouri, Bailey. And I don't know if that's because they're getting ready to apparently going to make him the deputy director of the FBI, I guess a co-deputy director. I wonder if they're about to get rid of Bongino and or Cash, one of those.
People is policy, but just putting somebody at the head of the organization doesn't change the people. And so until I see evidence that there's a massive reorganization about how these agencies are run, about how the RNC and the NRCC and all the people said, oh, well, the Republicans shouldn't be messaging right now. They're on recess. Okay, well, the RNC isn't on recess. The NRCC leadership isn't on recess. The NRSC, the Republican Governors Association, all the state and local parties, and I'm sure they're having local rallies for their people and stuff like that.
Yeah, but let me just tell you. Can I just tell you from my end? Logan, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, obviously, 1 being the worst, how good are these Republicans at getting back to us to come on here and get free airtime? A 3? Yeah, they're lazy. Let me tell you, the Republicans are lazy. Lazy. Not all of them. Vast majority of them are clueless, lazy, uninteresting. What's that? Is their staff? Their staff. They surround themselves now there's a couple of them we work with. Their staff are amazing. I'm just going to say one right now. Congressman Glenn Grothman, he's got a couple people on his staff that are 4 stars. 4 stars. I call, they answer. We ask for an interview, they get back. Congressman Glenn Grothman has one of the most responsive staffs on Capitol Hill I have ever dealt with. So that's true. We've had a pretty good response from Marjorie Taylor Greene's staff, haven't we?
But she's not afraid of a conversation. I think that might be one of the things that's going on here, Brannon.
Yeah.
So first off, I've met some of these staffers, and I don't spend a ton of time in D.C., but it's like they're all probably Nepo babies from Georgetown whose dad got him a job, and they're interchangeable.
There's no urgency on their part. No urgency.
Well, it's like if you go and look at, I worked at JP Morgan as an associate, and all of the associates in JP Morgan act, look, talk, and dress the same way. They just do. And so when you're working in the halls of Congress, which is a single office building, you're not working for the Republican team. You're working for a company, essentially, where everybody looks, talks, acts, and thinks the same way. And how they want to think is that, wow, maybe we're not in an existential crisis. Wow, maybe I am doing a good job. Wow, maybe that justifies me going off work early at 4 o'clock in the afternoon today and going to happy hour with all of the people I know from the Democrat office across the hall from me. Oh, wow, a lobbyist comes and sits in my office and tells me how important this thing is that's happening. And maybe I should listen to him and I can have action on that and feel really good because the lobbyist will come back and tell me I'm doing a good job. I think that's a lot of what goes on. And I think, I've talked to some of the congressmen. I think the ones I've talked to have all been great and principled as well. But I feel there's this hesitance because they don't know about every issue. They don't have anybody breathing down their necks. There is no pressure to be lockstep on any issue. And I think they're also, quite frankly, afraid of being dragged into an issue that they don't want to talk about.
Well, you're right about Congressman Glenn Grothman. You're right about Marjorie Taylor Greene. There's some of them that, Tim Burchett, they have no fear of doing a show and being asked something. They're not worried about the political correctness thing. That's not their thing, which is probably how they keep getting elected over and over because they don't care about that. Yeah. But you and I know they're the minority. A lot of their staffers, they won't return emails. I mean, how hard is it to return an email? They don't return emails. They don't return phone calls. We ran into one congressman, my own congressman. Okay, we ran into him when we were on Capitol Hill interviewing people. And we were set up in the rotunda of, what was that, the Cannon office building, Logan? Or was it? And he goes walking by when I'm done with an interview, and I just stuck up my hand and said, hey, I'm Brannon Howse. He stopped, he looked at me, he smiled, he said, I know who you are. And I said, really? Because I'd never met him. And he said, oh yeah, I've watched some of your stuff. I said, well, we wanted to interview you, but we didn't get a response. He said, well, I didn't get an email or anything. Who you been talking to? And I looked at Logan, and Logan named the name of the staffer. And Logan said, yeah, we emailed 2 or 3 times, left voicemails, nothing. No, he was not a happy camper. A couple of staff people with him started pulling their business cards out, handing them to Logan, get a hold of us, get a hold of us. It was like, what are you doing if your press person cannot return phone calls and emails? I mean, how hard is it to do that? But this is not just that office. This is the majority of them. They just are like, I'm sorry, if you're not Fox News, we're not interested. Like, well, that's stupid because guess what? President Trump went to all these podcasts, some of them I'd never even heard of, and President Trump's talking to those guys.
Yeah, it's a new world, and they're not keeping up with it. And I know they're not listening to the polling either. And I think that's part of it too. I definitely think staffer incompetence. But it's like if you cornered your average Republican legislator and started talking about the issue of abortion, I'm pretty sure you'd probably get some, maybe not, but I'm pretty sure you'd probably get some bad answers where I have advice for them, which is pretty much everybody agrees that late-term abortions are an abomination. And so if you can promise the average carve-outs, right, it's an 85% position to ban. That's one of the highest numbers we have. That's more popular than like paper ballots and voter ID. And so there could be bipartisan legislation tomorrow to do that. And I know Roe Wade, we kicked it back to the states, blah, blah, blah. I'm just saying, like, they don't know how to talk about that issue. I think they're afraid of things like that. And I have the answers for them, which is like, yes, you should get away from a fight over pro-choice versus pro-life and get into the fact that there are reprehensible things that we can all agree to now are bad. And I sent polling to one of the office and never heard back. Sent it to a director of communications for one of the good conservative ones, never heard back, offered him a subscription. And so again, you say, all right, well, maybe if they had a national organization like the Democrats, like a strategy layer, a layer of enforcement and reward and strategy and analytics and all the grassroots stuff they have a machine. The Republicans don't have a machine. The Republican machine does something different than the Democrat. Democrat machine is a feedback mechanism for conformity and power capture.
Which is why you see them all pushing the same talking points all the time.
Yeah, the talking points come out at 4 a.m. It goes to all their press surrogates.
You're not joking here right now. You're not joking. You're being dead serious.
All right, like we saw it in the Podesta emails. Like we've seen it. We've seen it happen. We've seen MSNBC people say to James O'Keefe, undercover, that the MSNBC talking points are the Kamala Harris campaign talking points. They said that months ago. They actually came out and said it. And so, yes, this is absolutely 100% how it happens. And if you're one of those talking heads and you don't toe the line, they have ways of coming after you. You're cut out. You don't get access. Somebody sends you a nasty email. Like things happen that are bad for your career. And they do that like up and down the entire, and on the right, how it's different is that it's not about maintaining optics and power and the visuals. It's about towing the line in order to maximize harvesting of donor dollars into consulting and campaign vendors. Like that's what I think the real game is.
So it's all about the money. So for the Democrats, it's about the cause. For the Republicans, it's about the money.
Well, I mean the cause on the Democrat side is maximizing the power structure that has maintained the global klepto corporate hegemony. Like, so it's still about the money, right? Like
they use the cause to get their people motivated to go out and vote and get elected and keep their power base.
Yeah, and I don't know why they lean into radical things as much as they do. I really don't. But
the Republicans can't seem to get organized on a cause like a contract with America, let's say.
Yeah. Well, I think you look at what's very unique about Trump's agenda. And obviously you say, well, okay, it's America first, which means voter first. But I think what it's really morphed into because of the Biden administration is reordering the socioeconomic order so that it works for the bulk of America, which is what has not happened. So how Democrats and Republicans have both equally failed is that they've allowed the powerful to concentrate political and economic power in order to maximize rent seeking and minimize the opportunities for Americans. And so, in my opinion, there's no left or right, conservative, radical kind of thing. It's really like, okay, well, you have two competing views of what economic populism is, and I think that is what's going to drive the near future of politics. And what you have, I think, on the right is a whole lot of people who still get money from the Kochs and the Club for Growth and the Chamber of Commerce type people, the big donors that run massive hedge funds and stuff like that, who don't acknowledge that that should be the ideological rudder of the right. And yet you have people who are extensions of the Trump movement who will carry it forward from a leadership perspective that do understand that. So I think that's going to be a major clash because Trump didn't necessarily need billions and billions of dollars of donor money. But you're not going to get a rich outsider billionaire so committed to this component of fixing America. And so I think, and I don't know obviously how Gavin Newsom's going to run, but you look at AOC and Bernie, and they've been at least moderately successful. I don't think the mainstream media has the same impetus from on high to parrot the Bernie Sanders and AOC voices. But they have a grassroots movement that is stronger than Gavin Newsom's. People in the grassroots for Gavin Newsom are still complaining about how he wasn't maximally tolerant of LGBT people when he was interviewing Charlie Kirk, right? So they're going to offer up a brand of economic populism that will be made out of, rainbows and unicorn farts, but it will appeal to a lot of people. And so I think there just needs to be a pragmatic and effective response to how the right completely embraces that.
Well, we just need to state what we believe, state what our worldview is. Our worldview is the foundation of our values. Our values are the foundation of our conduct. Here's what we believe. Here's our goals. Here's our objectives. And we go for it, and we're unapologetic. Ronald Reagan did a great job of saying, here's who I am. This is what I stand for. And he was willing to debate and take on people. He was debating people constantly, unscripted, right? Remember the famous, I'm paying for this microphone? Right. I mean, there was just a lot of these things that were unscripted, taking on the progressive professors at Berkeley, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I think a lot of these Republicans, they don't themselves know what they believe, right? And now we've got something about, I don't know what, I can't get the article. You have to pay to get the article, but supposedly there's some married congressman that's caught up in something on a gay sex scandal. I don't even know who that is because they're not saying. Have you seen that in the Daily Mail yesterday?
No. I'm typing right now, though.
Oh, ooh. Daily Mail had it yesterday. But you had to pay for their premium. You had to pay for their.
I'll show you how to fix that after this.
Here it is. Here it is, right here. Here it is. Secret gay sex scandal explodes. Republican Party as closeted congressman who's engaged to a woman is accused of sordid double life. I have no idea. I have no idea who that is or what it's about. All I know is I'm not so convinced a lot of these guys that are so-called Republicans are actually all that conservative anyway, to be frank.
No, I don't think that.
Which is why they don't have any values and cause, and they really can't go out there and push it because they're afraid of being exposed, and many of them are controlled. They're controlled. Yeah. They're being blackmailed.
Well, to be honest, I think, first off, anybody that acquires power is going to want to keep it. That's just human nature. And I think that the actual mission of the Republican Party, probably rightly so, is to do what they think they need to do to win. The problem is that they've been given a very clear plan of what to do to win, and they're not doing it. That's the problem, right? And I think for them, winning probably relatively ubiquitously across the entire country at local, county, party, and state levels has been, we'll just say what we need to say. We'll be the not Democrat. We're going to run as the not Democrat. We're going to be moderate. We're going to distance ourselves from strong stances and from lightning rod political figures. And yet at the same time, as you and I both know, the main components of the MAGA agenda have been the most popular thing that the voters have basically ever seen recently.
They want the Big Tent, all the nickels and noses we can get, and let's just appeal to everybody. And you and I, coming from business, know that the worst marketing is a shotgun approach. You don't market to everybody. You pick your demographic and you go for your demographic, right?
Yep.
If you think you're going to market a product to everybody, you're going to fail. And that's what the Republicans do. We want to be Big Tent. Okay, good luck with that. Donald Trump comes along and says, here's what we stand for. And they're all screaming, the rhinos, oh, that's not going to include enough people. That's too exclusive. I'm sorry. Right.
Yeah, it's like Big Tent is deport everybody. Yep. That's Big Tent. Deport as many people as possible. Americans support that.
But they don't think so. They don't think so, or they're afraid the media is going to say something bad about them.
Yeah. Well, exactly that. Or it's like, well, in my district, my voters are 30% Hispanic. So I can't say that here or I'm going to get crushed. Meanwhile, Hispanics are more anti-illegal immigration than white voters are. Like, that's the problem, right?
So they don't even know the polling. A lot of them don't even know the polling. And you're trying to share it with them, and they don't even take the free polling you're offering.
Yeah, exactly.
Or they deserve to lose. Then they deserve to lose. But
that's
then
what
again,
I've been saying. Give Americans a Republican Party that deserves to win.
Yep.
And the only thing that I can see that a Republican Party that deserves to win is one that maximally assumes this role of champion for the American middle class. And that doesn't just mean economically. That means values. That means family formation, housing, jobs, like all of that. All you have to do is do that and pass good laws, period.
And then actually do it. Actually do it. Like you said, pass good laws.
Pass good laws. That's the strategy for success.
At Honest Pollster, that's his handle at Twitter, at Honest Pollster. He'll be one of the keynote speakers at our national conference coming up Friday night, October 3rd, Saturday, October 4th, here in beautiful Collierville, Tennessee. Get your tickets at worldviewstore.com. You can walk up, talk to Mark yourself, okay? And,
I'll be there.
And you're going to be doing some special worldview polling, brand new worldview polling on what's the worldview, what's the values of the average American. I think you might be shocked. We might be able to show that George Barna's polling hasn't been that accurate. So we're gonna. Be sure to be here, folks. Mark, as always, thank you.
Great to be here. Thanks.
Mark Mitchell checking in. Check out his handle at Honest Pollster and get registered. Worldviewstore.com, Friday night, October 3rd, Saturday, October 4th, for our national 22nd annual Worldview Weekend. We'll be right back after this break. You've seen some of them on Fox News, and now some of them are coming to the Worldview Weekend in Collierville, Tennessee. Friday night, October 3rd, Saturday, October 4th, like Gordon Chang, an expert on China, as China is buying up a lot of our farmland and more. Then we're going to have the lead pollster of Rasmussen Polling, Mark Mitchell. Where are we headed with the midterms? What's the worldview of the average American? What values do they really believe in? And then Chris Martenson, he's an expert on the Great Reset as we head toward digital currency and social credit scores. Sidney Powell, a lot of you know who that is. Alex Newman, Dr. Andy Woods on Israel and the Middle East. And Adia Miramonde, she was inside the government and even met with people like Gaddafi. She's going to talk about the Middle East. All the details are available, and to get your tickets at worldviewstore.com. That's worldviewstore.com. Again, tell your family and friends, worldviewstore.com. All right, before we go, Great Britain is gone. I hate to say it. It is gone. The UK is gone. Look at this. The Muslims are taking over. Watch what happened today. Here we go. Or the other day. He's starting a chant trying to, we love bacon. I guess he's protesting all the Islamists.
Why? Because I like bacon. I say he likes bacon.
By the way, look at their cops. Their cops all look like a bunch of, feminized wimps. By the way, I don't think they carry guns over there. They have little whistles. This is what they're arresting people for, is saying, I love bacon to some Islamists who run around chanting death, death, kill the Jew, kill the Christians, teach all the garbage they teach in their mosques. And you say, I love bacon, and oh no, someone's got their feelings hurt. They can wave their Islamic jihadi flags everywhere. The UK is toast. It's over. It's done. I'm sorry for the folks that live there, but it is a rotten, disgusting place. Minus the people like this who actually have some guts. But this is the minority over there, apparently. This is coming to America. You can't say I love bacon. I mean, this is so much for free speech. It's just, I don't know what to say. Disgusting. But this is again, very easily could come to America. Very easily could come to America. And this network will be gone because we say stuff that's, I guess, more highly offensive than that to the power elite. Well, folks, if you appreciate our broadcast, we need your support. We really do. We are a listener-supported network. I say that all the time, but it's so true. WorldviewFoundation.com, WorldviewFoundation.com. Roll the music, guys. You know what else you can do? You can get some free business cards of ours. They're free. They're free. Like this is how I always think about, hey, Logan, I beat your mom at gin the other night. Melissa and I like to play gin before we call it a day, a few nights a week. It's a great way to unwind. Unless I lose, then I don't unwind. Sometimes she lets me keep playing until I win. I'm like, we're not calling it a night till I win. I can't sleep otherwise. Logan and I are very competitive when it comes to gin, aren't we, Logan? But anyway, this is not gin cards. These are our business cards, and you can order them for free at worldviewstore.com. Get a pack for free. Pass them out to your family and friends. Tell them about the Worldview Report, Worldview Tube, all of what we're doing here. We really appreciate your helping get out the word, okay? Worldviewstore.com. By the way, that same URL, worldviewstore.com, you can find out all about our fall conference, all right? Hey, till next time, thanks for watching. I'm Brannon Howse. May God save America. Take care.
Faith, spiritual values, moral issues, government, economy, education, work, responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brannon Howse.
Welcome on this August 20th, 2025. August 20th, 2025. And we're going to have on Aaron Lavarco for an update as 60,000 reservists are being called up for an invasion into Gaza. And listen to this one, guys. Apparently there are 4,000 American soldiers on ships on their way to Venezuela. Oh boy. Oh boy. Apparently the Trump administration is very much interested in a regime change in Venezuela. President Trump believes that Maduro is the head of a drug cartel, apparently, and is going to deal with that. So we'll get into all that. And then Jack Hibbs was with me last night, Pastor Jack Hibbs, on this bill in California that will make it, I call it a child kidnapping, sex trafficking bill. It is a pro-kidnapping and sex trafficking bill when it comes to children in California. And if you say, well, I don't live in California, well, the bill will allow someone to take your child, if they can get them to California, folks, and hide them out. In about 6 weeks' time, they can change their last name, change their social security number, all kinds of stuff. And they have the full weight of the government of California to hide your child and or grandchild away from your family. It's hard to believe. I think we're already involved in a civil war. You guys know my documentary, Siege, which came out in the fall of, November 2019, I think it was, November 2019. I had the subtitle in there about World War III and Civil War. And we said then we were already involved in a civil war. Civil war is when your, particularly elected officials in various states, refuse to follow the rule of law. I don't mean any law. Because someone passes a law doesn't mean we have to follow it. We must obey God rather than men, right? We believe the laws need to be, in our constitutional republic, consistent with the laws of the divine. But when we have laws that are legitimate laws, consistent with our constitutional republic, being ignored, that are going after church government, religious liberty, parental authority, we got a problem. And we have many states now that are led by lawless tyrants. I don't know how people aren't already talking about the fact we're in a civil war. People say, well, I don't see anyone shooting. Well, in places that actually there are. But as Daniel Greenfield says in the very opening of my 2019 documentary, and you can watch the whole, 8.5 hours for free if you're a member of the Vault at worldviewtube.com/vault. You can watch the whole 8.5 hours. That documentary starts out with Daniel Greenfield saying, we're in a civil war. People say, wait a minute, there's no shooting. He says, a shooting is how a civil war ends. A real civil war starts when there is no respect for the rule of law. And what do you see Governor Newsom doing? What do you see going on in Michigan, Minneapolis, the whole state of Minnesota, really, as far as the governor? And apparently there's a gal that is a state rep who's just announced she's running for governor. I just watched her first campaign ad. She's talking about Governor Walz and his war on girls, war on parental authority, that he's obsessed with cultural Marxism, the LGBTQ agenda. I don't know who she is, but I just watched her first TV ad that she's put out on social media, and that ad itself was pretty impressive, what she's taking on. I'll have to find out more about her. But I don't know. Can a conservative win up there with the liberals in the major big cities? I know they can win outside the major cities, but can they win with voter fraud? President Trump's trying to get rid of the machines and the paper, or the machines and the ballot stuffing, and go to paper and with watermarks. I don't know, maybe Minnesota can be saved. I'm not sure. But you see it with governors like Walz, or Governor Pritzker of Illinois, and on and on. These are lawless governors in my view. And we are really already involved in a civil war in America. Most Americans just don't realize it. But Jack Hibbs came on last night to talk about his rally that he hosted at the state capitol in Sacramento, California. I want to bring you a few minutes of that. Okay? Well, let's start out first with Aaron. Aaron Lavarco joins us he's our reporter on the ground in Israel, brought to you by our foundation, worldviewfoundation.com. We appreciate all the free content we're pushing out every day at World YouTube. By the way, we have a prophecy channel, we have a news channel, we have a history channel, we have a Bible teaching channel. It's just Bible teaching. We have our normal 24/7 stream. That's 5 channels. And I told Logan today we're going to add a 6th channel. It's going to be nothing but a hymn channel. You know, we've recorded a lot of hymns with my grand piano and piano player. Some of it has been fully orchestrated over the years. And we're gonna be doing more of that. My piano player and I will be getting together in the next few days as we're working up the arrangements for the concert, banquet, and keynote speech by Hadia on Thursday night, October 2nd, here in the Mid-South, part of our National Worldview Weekend. And we'll be filming that. And we're gonna our goal is to get up to 100 hymns that are fully professionally produced, where you can just put those on and enjoy those. You know what I'm reading, by the way? I'm reading that some young people are being introduced to hymns. The 20-somethings are being introduced to hymns for the first time. Many of them have never heard these hymns, and they're falling in love with them. There seems to be, I'm not ready to fully say there is, but there seems to be a little bit of a resurgence of interest in the hymns by 20-somethings and 30-somethings. Some of them have never heard this music. Isn't that interesting? And they're apparently very attracted to it because of the beauty, the message, the orchestration. There are people out there online that are gaining quite a large following that are concert pianists, that are playing huge pipe organs. And these are young people. There are some out there that are playing the cello. They're playing various instruments and are very skilled, and they're young. And they're getting quite a following on social media, I'm watching. And some of them are doing nothing but hymns. And many of the young people are saying, I've never heard these before. Where have these songs been? I think a lot of the young people today are tired of these 7-Eleven songs, 7 words repeated 11 times like some mantra. And they're being introduced to what is real talent, real orchestration, real music. And then the message, the meaning, the theology, the doctrine. You know, I have some friends, and I don't recommend this, but I have some friends that were at and attending evangelical churches in America. And they got sick of the contemporary services. They got tired of the lack of respect, the lack of reverence. And next thing I know, they're going to Latin Mass. I'm like, what are you doing? You've been at this evangelical church for 30 years. What are you doing? Can't take it anymore. I'm like, what? There's no respect. There's no reverence. So they're going to the Latin Mass. Now, I'm not recommending you do that. But what I'm saying is there is a growing trend among people, and some of them are not young. They are sick and tired of the modern church. And they're looking for something with deeper meaning and purpose and reverence. And isn't it interesting that some of these 20-somethings are hearing the hymns for the first time and are asking, well, why don't we do those in our church? Because you know what? You don't have to be highbrow, classical music kind of person to recognize someone who is a skilled pianist or musician, and to know when you're hearing, hey, that's good music. So we're going to record a bunch more of these hymns. My throat is finally coming back and repairing. Thank you to all you've been praying. I don't know what went on. I didn't have the shot. I did have COVID several times, but this last time I had COVID, it seemed to just go for my throat. But I've got on all kinds of natural things, including a natural spray that's filled with licorice and licorice root, and my throat's coming back. And so just in time for the October 2nd event. But we're going to film a lot more hymns, produce them, and get this hymn channel going. Because in this day and age, I think there are a lot of people just looking to kind of decompress. And those hymns, they just have a way of doing that. My granddaughter apparently has for a long time loves to watch Grandpa's hymn concerts. So I get videos from time to time where she's sitting in her little chair trying to sing along. So, and then I have other